we're gonna start our first machine. That would be our Kioptrix, and we're gonna try different techniques to solve this one. So you can see welcome to Kioptrix L1 penetration testing assignment environment. The objective they have given to acquire the root access of this machine. So they have given there are many ways that you can simply hack this machine. So we're gonna try different kinds of techniques over here. So first thing first, we need to identify the IP address of the network host. So we're gonna use netdiscover, -r, and my subnet mask, which was 192.168.1. So yeah. So in my local network, the scan has been done, and I can see there are around 3 IP addresses, which is 104, 107, and some MAC address. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to check. We can use nmap also. We can use nmap sn command, pingstrip command, and the IP address. So over here you can see the 101, which was unknown, and that was my router IP address. The second one is my architect, and 107 was my Oracle VirtualBox. As we know, our target has been operated on the Oracle VirtualBox machine. So in this scenario, what are we going to do? We're going to try to manipulate, and we're going to try to gain information about the target. So first thing first, we have our IP address, which is over here 107. So first of all, let's check, is it a Windows machine or a Linux machine? So we're going to do ping command. We're going to use 2 packets over there and the IP address. So over the TTL value, which I can see, this is a non-technical device, which is your network device, 255 TTL value. So what we're going to do, we're going to check if, first of all, when you are penetrating a machine, you have to simply scan the server. So I'm going to use nmap over here. So let's have a roadmap, first of all. Let's have a roadmap, a PT. So first of all, we have a target. Let's take target IP address. So we have a target IP address. So when you have a server or a website, we have different approach. For server, we have to simply scan. Let's take the server example. If you have a server, so in this scenario, first of all, find the banner grabbing part. What is banner grabbing? Identify the services and their specific version, which is running in the server side. For example, if I have to take the example SSH, I guess, and their version. So version could be anything. Let's take 2.9. Second thing, fingerprinting. Fingerprinting, why? Identify the OS type. So it could be Windows, it could be Linux, and it could be ISO. Or you can say it would be Mac. So remember one thing, the manual approach, when you find some services and the version, try to look for the public exploit. Or you can see, or you can say that we can try the VA part, which is your information gathering part. We're going to do the information first of all. The service as a version is a different thing. And the most important thing, source code review. This is also important for the upcoming sessions because some developers put some API tokens or some sensitive information. So our major objective would be we gonna find each and everything one by one on the server side that can be help us for the information gathering part. And the last and the least, but I should write in the top is this one, the word which is always remember, recon, which is also has a name of enumeration part. Suppose we have a website now. Now what? In the banner part, we were talking about the protocols also. Yes, that's right, protocols and versions. If we have a website, the first thing remember is to crawl the entire network.
Recon means reconnaissance, right?
Reconnaissance, yes. So website, if we have a website over here, the first thing we have to do is to crawl the website. We have to identify all the things one by one. In that part, you can use tools like your best friend is your Burp Suite, your Dub Buster, or you can say there are many other tools that you can use. But the most important part, when you are using the crawling part, to identify the directories and subdirectories on server, you need to find a better dictionary, which I can say word list. And I will say the one of the best word list is your sec list. You can try to get the sec list word list from the Google. You can write sec list, GitHub, and over here on the top you can see discovering, fuzzing, IOCs, miscellaneous, password, patterning, matching, payloads, username. And over here you can see SecList is the security tester's companion. It's a collection of multiple types of lists and during the security assessment collected in one place. And this project manager is Daniel, Jason Hedix, and Gottman. And they have given all the path. So our major concern will be going to try all these things over here one by one. Webalizer requires some new permissions. Yes, please, what you want. You want to update. Through the crawling part, you can identify the directories on server side. But when you do crawling part, remember your spider work, your repeater word, and your intruder. And which I was talking about the burp switch, first of all. And this is also your part called recon. Identify the sub directories on the server side. So it's all up to us which kind of things we're going to use it. Is it a server based or a website based? If I talk about the server based, we use security policies. The security policy that we use is called NIST, National Institute Standard Technology. And if I talk about the security policies of the website, we have only WASP or we have SANS 25. So we have to remember which technology or which security policies we have to use in which time. It's all up to the network part or the web part. So let's have a look over here, what we can try. So over here, we have an IP address of the machine, which is PCS. So what will be the first step? When you find an IP address, when you have to penetrate the server, make a checklist. What are the things which you have to check? The number of ports are open, the number of vulnerabilities you will find, and the server will be vulnerable. Unnecessary ports. Keep in your mind that if unnecessary ports are open, an attacker can try lots of further things to identify. For example, which ports are sensitive? Telnet, FTP. An attacker can use default credentials because we never secure those ports. Telnet, FTP, and other services. So our major agenda would be, I'm going to use Nmap. So what are the things I'm going to need for scan? So when you are using Nmap, let's take PT part now. So let's try with the first Nmap. So through the Nmap, my major agenda will be finding the services and their version. And what? Yes, let's find open ports also. If there are open ports, means there are protocols. And each and every protocol has a version and an OS also. So let's try with this one. So I'm going to use, okay, so it's all up to me. I'm going to use a sync scan. Do I have to use only the, if I have to only find the open ports, so I can use SS, which is a half scan. Or if I am making a proper three-way handshake, I can use SV plus SC. So let's try with the first one, which is my SS. So over here on the screen, I can see there are some ports which are open. And the ports are your 22, which is your SSH, AT, which is HTTP, 111, which is your RPC bind, 139.443, and 327 square. So my major concern would be each and every protocol has a past. As a past, I'm saying has a vulnerability over there. So port 22, which is open over here, SSH, AT, which is HTTP, RPC, which is the triple one, and NetBIOS. Okay, this is the NetBIOS services. So you have to remember what is the protocol means and what is the functionality of that protocol. So over here you have to make a proper report. If an attacker has to connect to the server, he needs the credential of username and password, or the port 80 is the open. So port 80 is open, so we can simply check we can access the server side, I guess. So on the screen you can see this is a proper default page of your Apache, and this is the Red Hat Linux over here. So remember, first thing you have to read about whatever the things are in the screen. First of all, I can see this one. This is a test page, just like my Apache server. For example, let me run my Apache server. Service Apache to start. 127.0.0.1. So this is my Apache 2 Debian default page, just like this one. This is a Red Hat, and this one is my Debian based. So you can see the similarity things. There is nothing difference. You can find the Apache 2 configuration file, port configuration file, configurations as we have mentioned earlier, which is on the directory of your etc Apache 2. Check this one if you are administration of this code. Pardon me for the 2 minutes. So over here we can see you may be added content this to content directory. Okay, this is a normal thing. If you have upgraded for Red Hat Linux 6.2, okay, they are saying if you are upgraded from your Red Hat Linux 6.2 and earlier, then you can see in this page because of the root document. The root document, which is over here, document root, which show you where the path has been filed. See,
By default, Debian does not allow you to access the web server to any of the file apart from this location, where www.public.html, where my website is hosted. For example, you can check it over here, where www.html, and I can see my some of the website pages, which is basically hosting my websites. So they have given, because of the root document is set in the etc http config.php file. Look, each and every server has a different path of their Apache server, and this one has in etc http config.http config file. So in this scenario, the most important thing is to examine the server path. The Linux has a different architecture in each and every individual part. For example, Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu, or your Linux has a different path variables. So my major concern is to check all the possibilities one by one. So they are saying any subdirectories which is existed under home HTTP, the home directory which contains all the usernames. And should we move on the where we can simply execute or host our page. For example, I already have hosted my some of the pages like my fb.html file. So this was a file which is stored on the Apache server. It's like this one. And this was a fake one, first of all. So what I'm going to do over here, we're going to try something else. So let's stop this one. I don't need this. So we, through SS, I find the service open ports over there. So my major agenda would be, let's find some service plus versions. And I'm going to use some script scan, SC. Remember one thing, if we are using SC command, it will make an aggressive scan. It will make a lot of logs on the backend side, so it can cause a server disbalance. So majorly try to use SV. Most of the terms we use service plus version to identify. If you want to do advanced scanning, then you can use the script scan. And we're gonna use the time and performance parameter also. So that would be my second choice. So I'm gonna use T4 and hit enter.
SC is advanced scanning.
Yes, it's an advanced scan. It's a script scan.
Okay.
If you remember the capital A, this is also an aggressive scan. And SC and capital A are the same one because they're gonna enable the OS detection, version detection, script scanning. The most important part, the script scanning.
Okay.
And we are doing script scanning to defining SC.
Okay, it does not contain trace root.
Yeah. But this one contains.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's gonna take some time over here. So make a proper chart that you have. What are the things you have to do? Each and every company has a different security policies or checklist. They can use it for different techniques. Okay, so it's gonna take some time. Let's move on to the website first of all. So when you have simply scanning with the Nmap, if you have a website, then try to crawl the website. So over here, I'm not going to use the Burpsuit. I'm going to use the Derb or Derbuster. So let's try the Derbuster here. Yeah, and our scan has been done properly. Finally, we have done our scanning. So over here, you can examine that the port number 22 was open and the version, which is important for us. And over here you can see the types of encryption standard they are using. They are using RSA1, DSA, and RSA, which is your SSH version 1. See. So port 80, we can see this is an Apache server with one Apache HTTP version is 1.3.20. This is your Unix, Red Hat Linux, and they are using some your external extensions, just like your Mode SSL 2.8.4, OpenSSL 0.9.6. And what we have over here, 139, which is an RPC. This is a normal thing, but we have seen that this is a Samba server. 139 was open. NetBIOS Samba work group SMB group. And the most common thing we can see is port 443, which is our Red Hat Linux. Same thing, OpenSSL. So it means we can communicate with that server easily. And what we have the normal port number. And this is Samba version 2 with and NetBIOS name, Kioptrix. We're going to try this one later on, but we're going to try to recon first of all, enumerate. So Dirbuster is basically used to find the directories and the files on the server side. And the most important thing, we have to put a dictionary over here. So first thing first, we have to specify the URL on the port 80. So I can have only this on my server side. Let's try over here. Okay, so number of threads according to your server. Through the crawling part, sometimes they reveal some sensitive directory which is not be able to access by the local users. Sometimes they reveal some API tokens, some API session cookies, and lots of other things. So our major objective would be check all the possibilities one by one. So we're going to crawl the entire directory, and if we can find some sensitive informations, that could be helpful for us in the further steps. So over here, we're going to use a dictionary list of based on brute force, pure brute force, or I'm going to list brute force. So let's use browse, user, share. You can go to the word list. In the word list, you can see there are some directories like Derb, Derbuster, Front Wi-Fi, Metasploit, Fuzz. You can use any of this one. So I'm going to use the Derbuster to enumerate the directories. And you can see there are some lists given over here. Apache user enumerations, 1.0, 2.0 directories. This one is the biggest one. 1.0 list of directories, which is a medium, which is 2.3, which is a small. They have given one by one all the things. Or you can simply visit those directories. User, share. You can write word list over here. And over here you can see the Buster. These are some directories that can be used for further scanning part. For example, let's try to open this one. It contains some directories just like a CGI bin, which is your common gateway interface. And you should know about what is CGI bin. This is a web application part. CGI bin is basically your binary script which is used for your web application interface part. Educations, besides accessibility, these are some directories one by one. Let's have a look how many words are there. So let's use WC, word count, length, and I'm going to take this one. There are around 2,20,560 words. You can try this one. So my major agenda is to tell you about what kind of dictionary you have to use. For example, if you are using for the website, for Derbuster, remember one thing, setlist is one of the best ones. You can use fuzzing part. You can simply look for the databases, LFI, SQLi, user agent, XSS, LDAP, fuzzing text files. We have given all the things. These are some word lists, yet you can use it for intruder part. For dietary crawling, discovery, miscellaneous password pattern, you can use all these things. But over here, we're going to try to use medium one. So, brute force for directories, brute force for files, yes, it's already ticked. Remove the recursive. And the one thing which is important, that is your PHP extension. First thing first, how would I know if this website is have PHP or not? So, for analyzing the PHP, we're going to use a tool called WhatWeb. WhatWeb to identify the technologies that is being used on the website. WhatWeb identify website like it's going to answer the questions. What is the websites? What recognize web technologies including content management system, which is a CMS. Your blogging pattern, statistics analytic package, JavaScript libraries, web servers, and your embedded devices. So there are further things that can be happen over here one by one. So we're gonna use WhatWeb -v, which is a verbose, and IP address. So through the WhatWeb, you can see over here on the screen that they have find that the server is running in Apache version 1.3.20, as we know, email which has find HTTP server. By defaultly, if this is not able to, if it's not helping you to analyze what are the technology they are using, you can use a tool called Webalizer. Webalizer is the best tool to analyze the technologies that which is driving the generation part. So over here, you can download the Webalizer. So I was looking for the product API. Browser extension, sorry, it was browser extension. So we're gonna download a browser extension from the Mozilla. This add-on was not actively monitored for security by Mozilla. Make sure you have first installed it. Yes, go ahead, please. Okay, why it's not showing me the add-ons, versions, view recent updates, installation update on firewall, debug, update. I don't know why it's not happening. It's showing us a icon over here. I will see only proxy. Maybe I will check it later on. But try to use Webalizer. It will help us to identify the tools and the extension that which is using on the server side. So we're gonna use the PHP over here to identify the services and start. So over here through the Durbuster, we can identify all the directories and subdirectories on the server side that could be help us for the further stage. So over here you can see on the result view directories, these are some founder files, and the tree result. You can see a proper directories on server side. You can see CGI bin. The first thing is to better understand the status code, which is your 200 403. 403 we know that this is a forbidden part.
Yeah.
200, which is okay. Doc side, which is 403, forbidden again. Test.php, this is a PHP file over here, which is say 200, and the length of the file. The major objective is to check all the possibilities if we can find any sensitive information. Through the Durbuster, sometimes, as I mentioned you, security misconfiguration or broken access control, and an attacker simply get any of the sensitive information from the server side with the help of crawling part. Think about the OWASP top 10. If you are going for the web part, you have to check all the possibilities of A1 to A10. And this possibilities which comes on the your broken access control. Security misconfiguration is just like a default credential that you didn't set any username and password. So sometimes with the crawling part, they reveal some sensitive information. You can try Burpsuit also. And through this one, you can examine the file type and the length of the file and the size of the file. So my major agenda would be we're gonna check all the things one by one. So let's move on over here. I think if I get to the source code, there will be nothing much, just a normal source code. It's a normal source code, but we have to check all the things, possibilities. So we can see all the things one by one. The OpenSSL project is a collaborating effort. So when you didn't find anything from the crawling part, now let's have a look on the services. This port number 22 is SSS services, but we don't have the credentials to log in on the server. We need a proper username and password, but I don't have those things. The 80 port which is open, which is running over there, but sometimes you have to check the extension also. Let's try a vulnerability scanner tool, which is our NICTO. So before the NICTO, let's do manual. So it's one of the best tools to find the potential vulnerabilities and security misconfiguration part. So for example, you can say server and software misconfigurations, default files and programs, insecure files and programs, and outdated servers and programs. These are the four things which is helped by the NICTO, and we can use it for identifying this. CGI bin directories, this is also used in NICTO. Config files, some configuration files on the server side. specify an alternative config file which is used to instead of config.txt, DB check, database check, evasions. They are using various techniques. Nicto is one of the best tools to identify the loopholes. And you can see through the Nicto, you can also find the OWASP software vulnerabilities if they exist. So let's use Nicto-h host and the IP address. So you have to use lots of things in a lot of particular time. So it's showing me WordPress. How would I know this website contains a WordPress? Let's see on the first time. Server Apache 1.3.20, which is your Unix, Red Hat Linux, mode SSL 2.8.4. Server may leak denotes byte tags. The anti-click checking explain. Headers found with anti-click checking explain options is not present. XSS protection hazard is not defined. So this website could be vulnerable to XSS. XSS protection is basically used to prevent the website from XSS vulnerabilities. Okay, we can see Apache is vulnerable by the expected headers, which is your XSS. And there are further more things that can be happen. Mode SSL, which is your outdated. Apache is outdated. OpenSSL is outdated. But when you're making a proper report, you have to summarize all the things one by one, because that is important for the penetration testing part. Allowed HTTP method, which is important. Get, head, option, trace. You should know about these things. Get, which is data which is transferred from the URL section. Head, which is your header base, which contains a message of the body. Options allow you to what are the server side is using, which is your put, allow, trace, move, or trace to simply trace the packet from the client to the server. The path, you can say. So over here, what we can see in Apache 1.3.20 and from 34 are vulnerable to a remote DOS attack and possible code execution. DOS attack and code execution part. So what could be the possibilities? And what we have over here also, Apache 1.3 below 1.27 are vulnerable to a local buffer overflow allow, which may allow attacker to kill any process on the system. This is a DOS attack, first of all. Then you can see this one, Apache 1.3 and below 1.2 are vulnerable to a remote buffer flow in mode rewrite and mode CGI bin. But in the CGI bin, we don't have the permissions. It was 403. Yes, we can see mode SSL 2.8.4, mode SSL 2.8.7 are lower to a vulnerable to a remote buffer overflow, which may allow to a remote shell. And we can see the CV Mitra. CV Mitra is a website where you can simply gather the information about the exploit, common vulnerability and exposure, which was on the year of 2002, and the number of exploit was 82 on that year. The DM and the SSM session cache code in mode SSL before 2.7 and 2.4 Apache does not properly initialize memory using idle session, which allow a remote attacker to use buffer overflow to execute arbitrary code by a large number of certificate that is signed by trusted CS certificate. A CS certificate, which might, I guess, a proper connection with the HTTPS, which produce a large serial sessions. We know in that year 2002 there was no HTTPS, only HTTP. So in this scenario, we have to think each and every possibilities. So my major concern would be let's have a look of this vulnerability, which is your mode SSL 2.8.7, if we can find anything. In the real life scenarios, if you find any version, first read out those things, which is that vulnerability means. Then look for the public exploit. So I'm going to use my local database exploit DB server. So I'm going to use search exploit. And through the search exploit, I can see some vulnerabilities over there. Apache mode SSL 2.8.7, which is given your remote buffer overflow. Remote buffer overflow, you can see. And the number of vulnerabilities. This code is written in C program. Most of the exploits are written in C. So if you are good in C programming, you can create your own exploits. So, or we can look for the exploit DB. Let's do mode SSL 2.8.4. Let's remove the 4 and we can see some vulnerabilities over there. Apache mode SSL, same thing. And the year, database, active, verified, titles, the type, which is your remote means remote code execution, DOS means denial of service attack. So we are not going to count this one. And the author and the platform. So these platform was like Unix, sorry, not Unix, Unix. So we can open any of the files. So for example, let's try this one. So this is a remote buffer overflow attack. So first of all, if you doesn't know which is called buffer overflow attack, this is a major cause which can cause the overflow or which can crash the application. A buffer overflow occurs when the data written to a buffer also corrupt the data in the value's memory address in the destination buffer due to insufficient bounds checking. This can occur when copying the data from one buffer to another without first checking that the data fits with the destination buffer or not. For example, 100. If the buffer capacity is 100, if I put 101, so the memory will crash now. Even a single byte can crash the application. So most of the exploits are written in buffer overflow. So it is also good for you guys for if you can learn buffer overflow attack. So the first thing when you find a public exploit, try to read about the code and the requirement also. Of version root verify privilege plan apt get install requirement. We need libssl dev file. So they have given apt get install libssl dev and the compilation command also gcc compilation. -o for output, the name and the file name and the alcrypto. So it will basically have free to get more targets on the HTTP graph. So it was all affecting all the Apache server first of all. And you can see the C programming code. So see, these are the buffer, these are the registry memories. These are registries. Each and every Apache version has a registry on the server side. Combat Sun is also an operating system, Debian GNU. See. And the most important thing, the buffer code is this one. 208, the buffer memory, 12 and 46. Okay. So this will crash on the server side on the HTTP server, and you can see they're gonna use the term export, term and execute bin bash. Okay, -I unset the cd temp file, and in the cd temp file they can execute a file which is your command.p file. So you can see the proper execution. When the payload will execute, it will make a backdoor on the server side. For example, if you're going to use term xterm, export xterm, execution bin bash, which is your shell. And over here, they're gonna simply they're gonna open a cd temp file, and they're gonna use a wget command to fetch a file which is your pretrace components file. This file is vulnerable. This is the main cause, and it's gonna use automation GCC compiler. See. So let's have a look at this one. So let's download.
So I'm going to do over here. So we have our exploit, which is about 47080. So as per my over here, I can see in my local server it was also present. You can download from your local server or you can download from the exploit DB. It's all up to you. So let's have a look. So we know this is a C file. If you use the file utility, you can verify this one that this is a C source file. So there's nothing difference. So let's use GCC. For now, output. I'm going to name this one exploit and the file name. And the last thing they have mentioned, the Untitled. Yes, remember one thing, we have to install this dependency also, but I already have installed this one. So remember to try to install. Yes, I already have installed this one. Yes, so we were.
This compiler?
No, this is a dependency files, your library files.
Okay. GCC?
GCC is a compiler, man.
Okay.
I'll get. Now you can see over here that we have a proper exploit over here. So our major objective would be how we're going to check all the possibilities one by one. So let's have a look on the exploit. Okay, so what we can see over here, users, they have given the proper users of this one. So use exploit, the target box, which is your supported box like your example 0x0, which is your buffer offset, box, which is your IP address or the host name, port, which is your port name, and -C, which is your connection. So the target, which is the box, which is saying over here, the box you can see. Sorry, the target. The target is a buffer memory. You can see all the Apache version has a different buffer memory. 0x01, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. It's up to A to F. And these are some buffer memory, which is your bad characters, I guess. Yes, these are the bad characters. So we have to select our own one. So yeah. So we have Apache version, which was 1.3.20. And remember one thing, this was a Red Hat Linux system. You have to select the Red Hat Linux with the Apache version. So over here, this was Red Hat Linux. This is Red Hat Linux. So we have to select the 1.3.20. And what I can see a proper 0x6A, which is my 1.3.20. You can see 1.3.20, 26, 26, 26. But we have the Apache version, which was 1.3.20. So you have to analyze all the things, possibilities one by one. So let's have a look over here. We're going to try this buffer memory, these two buffer memories. So exploit. Yep. So we're going to use exploit the first buffer memory that was 0x6A. So we're going to try with the first buffer memory. IP address. The port number. Now we have to specify the port number to connect. So in my case, what I'm going to do, we already know that the port 443 was open, so we make a proper connection on that. We can send the payload on the port 443 because this is open to all. So if any of the port is open, we can simply communicate with those things very easily. So I'm going to use 443. I can see the number of sockets. Now it's all about the sockets program, the connections. So they are giving the range to 40 to 50. So remember, let's try with the 40 first. Let's make a connection on the source side. Establishing SSL connection. Cipher has been sent, but no. Let's try with the 45. No, it's not running. So what could be the possibilities? Sometimes they have given 2 buffer memories. Remember, they have given 2 buffer memories, so you have to try all the things one by one. So it's all about hit and trial. So let's try with the 6P. Yep, let's make a proper connection on the server side, and over here we can see when we have a bash shell. Then when we have a bash shell, it executed our pcommode file, pmode.pc file. And over here you can see this was 3.27 MB files, and you can see attached on the port number 6699, waiting for the signal count, and now we have a proper shell. Who am I? I can see I am root. So bin bash -i. So we are on the server side. Let's have a look. So many applications are running over there. See, these are the connections that we have made from 107 to 110. Maybe different IP address, because I send around 45 connections. That's why it's making 45 requests over here. So this was the machine of the boot to root machine. So that's why we didn't have some problems to complete this one. But there are different challenges that can be happen over there one by one. So we have to check all the possibilities. It's all about animation part. You have to check all the things on the server which can be helpful for us. Yes, and this one. If you have gone through the recon part, you will find all the possibilities on the board. So